Marcus Chen stepped out of his black Tesla and looked at the small diner in front of him. Romano's diner looked nothing like the fancy restaurants where he usually met business partners. The paint was old and faded. The neon sign flickered on and off. But this place meant something special to him. 20 years ago, Marcus had sat in this same diner with his college roommate. They were two broke students with a big dream. They wanted to start a tech company. They had no money, no office, and no investors, but they had hope. They spent hours in Romano's diner, drinking cheap coffee and writing their business plan on napkins. Now Marcus was worth $3 billion. His company made software that hospitals used all over the world. He owned houses in 5 countries. He flew in private jets. But he still remembered those early days when he had nothing but dreams. Today was important. Marcus was about to make the biggest deal of his life. He was going to buy a drug company for $100 million. It was a lot of money, even for him. But if everything went right, he could make much more. The drug company had created something amazing. They said they had found a cure for a disease that killed children. The disease was rare, but it was terrible. Kids who got it usually died before their 10th birthday. If the drug really worked, it could save thousands of lives. Marcus pushed open the door to the diner. A small bell rang above his head. The smell of bacon and coffee filled the air. It smelled exactly the same as it did 20 years ago. "Welcome to Romano's," said a young woman behind the counter. "Sit anywhere you like." Marcus looked around. The diner was almost empty. It was 3 in the afternoon, between lunch and dinner, perfect timing for a private meeting. He chose a large booth in the back corner. It was the same booth where he and his roommate used to sit. The waitress walked over with a menu and a glass of water. She was probably in her late 20s. She had dark hair pulled back in a ponytail and kind brown eyes. Her name tag said, Sarah. "What can I get you to drink?" Sarah asked. "Coffee, please." "Black," Marcus said. "And I'm expecting some business partners. They should be here soon." "No problem," Sarah said with a smile. "I'll bring the coffee right away." Marcus watched her walk back to the coffee machine. Something about her seemed different from most waitresses he had met. She moved with confidence. Her eyes were sharp and intelligent, but he didn't think much about it. He had bigger things on his mind. Marcus pulled out his phone and checked his emails. The drug company executives would arrive any minute. Dr. Richard Webb was the head of the company. He was a tall man with gray hair who always wore expensive suits. His business partner was Dr. Lisa Park. She was the scientist who had created the new drug. These two people held the key to something that could change the world. Their drug could save children's lives. It could also make Marcus even richer than he already was. Win-win, he thought. Sarah returned with the coffee. It was hot and strong, just the way he liked it. "Are you Marcus Chen?" she asked quietly. Marcus looked up, surprised. Not many people recognized him. He tried to keep a low profile. Unlike some billionaires, he didn't like being famous. "Yes, I am," he said. "I thought so. I saw your picture in a magazine article about successful entrepreneurs. The article said you started your first company while you were still in college." "That's right," Marcus said. "Actually, I used to come to this diner back then. My business partner and I would sit in this exact booth and plan our future." Sarah's eyes lit up. "That's amazing. It must feel good to come back here after all your success." "It does," Marcus said. "This place holds a lot of memories for me." Sarah nodded and walked away to help another customer. Marcus watched her go. There was something about her that made him curious. She didn't act like someone who planned to be a waitress forever. At exactly 3:30, the door opened. Dr. Webb and Dr. Park walked in. Marcus waved them over to his booth. Dr. Webb was carrying a large briefcase. Dr. Park had a laptop bag, slung over her shoulder. "Marcus," Dr. Webb said with a big smile. "Thank you for meeting us here. I have to admit, when you suggested this place, I was a little surprised. This diner is special to me," Marcus explained as they sat down. "Besides, sometimes the best deals happen in the most unexpected places." Dr. Park looked around nervously. Are you sure this is private enough? We're going to be discussing some very sensitive information. Marcus looked around. There were only 3 other customers in the whole diner. An old man reading a newspaper, a young couple sharing a piece of pie, and a woman working on her laptop in the corner. We'll be fine, Marcus said. No one here cares about business deals. Sarah appeared at their table with menus and water glasses. Good afternoon, she said politely. Can I start you off with some drinks? Dr. Webb ordered a Diet Coke. Dr. Park wanted tea with lemon. Sarah wrote down their orders and left. Friendly waitress, Dr. Park commented. She recognized me earlier, Marcus said. But she seems nice enough. Dr. Webb opened his briefcase. Well, let's get down to business. Marcus, what we're about to show you is going to change everything. Our drug doesn't just treat the disease, it actually cures it completely. Marcus leaned forward. This was what he had come to hear. The disease affects about 5,000 children worldwide each year, Dr. Park explained. Right now, there's no cure. The best treatments can only slow it down for a few months. But our drug changes all that, Dr. Webb added. We've run tests on lab mice. The results are incredible, 100% cure rate. Marcus felt his heart beat faster. A cure for a deadly children's disease would be worth billions, not millions. The families of sick children would pay anything to save their kids. Sarah returned with the drinks. She set them down quietly and pulled out her order pad. Have you decided what you'd like to eat? She asked. Just coffee and drinks for now, Marcus said. We have some important business to discuss. Of course, Sarah said. I'll check back with you later. As she walked away, Dr. Park opened her laptop. Let me show you the test results, she said. Marcus Chen had no idea that the waitress who had just served his table was about to change his life forever. Dr. Park turned her laptop screen toward Marcus. The display showed charts and graphs with numbers that made his eyes widen. These are our test results from the past 6 months, she said. Marcus studied the screen carefully. He had learned to read scientific data over the years. When you invested in medical companies, you had to understand the science behind the products. We tested the drug on 200 lab mice, Dr. Park continued. All of them had the disease. After just 1 week of treatment, 95% were completely cured. What happened to the other 5%? Marcus asked. They were cured, too. But it took 2 weeks instead of 1, Dr. Webb said with a confident smile. Marcus, we're talking about a 100% cure rate. Do you understand what this means? Marcus did understand. A drug that could cure any disease completely was worth more money than he could count. But he also knew that lab mice were different from humans. Have you tested it on people yet? He asked. Dr. Park shook her head. Not yet. That's where you come in. We need funding for human trials. The FDA requires extensive testing before any new drug can be sold to the public. How much money do you need? Marcus asked. $100 million, Dr. Webb said. That will cover all the testing, the paperwork, and getting approval from the government. Once we get approval, we can start selling the drug. Marcus picked up his coffee cup and took a sip. The coffee had gone cold while they were talking. And how much money could we make? Dr. Webb leaned forward. Marcus, there are 5,000 new cases of this disease every year. The families of these children will pay anything to save their kids. We could charge $50,000 per treatment. Marcus did the math quickly in his head. 5,000 patients times $50,000 each. That was $250 million every year. And that was just in the United States. The drug could be sold all over the world. Even if we only captured half the market, Dr. Park added, we would make over $100 million in the first year alone. Sarah appeared at their table again. How is everything going? Can I get you anything else to drink? Another coffee, please, Marcus said. This one got cold. Sarah picked up his cup. I'll bring you a fresh one right away. After she left, Dr. Webb pulled out a thick folder from his briefcase. These are all the legal documents, he said. The contract gives you 60% ownership. of our company in exchange for the $100 million investment. Marcus opened the folder. The first page was titled Pharmaceutical Acquisition Agreement. Below that were dozens of pages filled with legal language and scientific terms. "This is a lot to read," Marcus said. "Of course," Dr. Webb said. "But I think you'll find everything is in order. Our lawyers have been working on this for months." Dr. Park pulled out another folder. "These are the detailed scientific reports. The chemical formula for the drug is in here along with all our research data." Marcus opened the second folder. The first page showed a complex diagram of molecules. It looked like a puzzle made of circles and lines. Chemistry had never been his strong subject, but he could see that a lot of work had gone into creating this formula. Sarah returned with a fresh cup of coffee. "Here you go," she said, setting it down in front of Marcus. As she reached across the table, her eyes fell on the open folder. Marcus noticed her pause for just a second as she looked at the molecular diagram. Then she continued serving the coffee as if nothing had happened. "Thank you," Marcus said. "You're welcome. Let me know if you need anything else." After Sarah walked away, Marcus continued reading the documents. The more he read, the more excited he became. The drug company had done extensive research. They had tested dozens of different formulas before finding one that worked. "How did you discover this particular formula?" Marcus asked. Dr. Park smiled proudly. "It took 3 years of trial and error. We tested over 200 different combinations of chemicals. This was the only one that worked." "The disease attacks the nervous system," Dr. Webb explained. "Most drugs can't cross the barrier between the blood and the brain, but our formula found a way to get through." Marcus nodded. He didn't fully understand the science, but he trusted these doctors. Dr. Webb had run 3 successful pharmaceutical companies. Dr. Park had a PhD in chemistry from Harvard. They knew what they were doing. "What's the next step?" Marcus asked. "We need to start human trials as soon as possible," Dr. Park said. "The sooner we begin testing, the sooner we can get FDA approval." "How long does the approval process usually take?" Marcus asked. "For a drug this important, probably 2 to 3 years," Dr. Webb said. "The FDA will fast-track anything that could save children's lives." Marcus did more math in his head. If he invested $100 million today, he could start making money back in 3 years. After that, the profits would continue for decades. It was a smart investment. Sarah walked by their table again, refilling water glasses at the next booth. Marcus caught her glancing at their documents again. He wondered if she was just curious or if she understood what she was looking at. "Are you ready to move forward?" Dr. Webb asked. Marcus looked at all the papers spread across the table, charts showing test results, legal documents outlining the deal, scientific reports explaining how the drug worked. Everything looked perfect. "Have just a few more questions," Marcus said. "What happens if the human trials don't work as well as the mouse trials?" "That's always a risk," Dr. Park admitted. "But our formula is very stable. We've tested it under every condition we can think of: temperature changes, different storage methods, interaction with other drugs. It works every time." "What about side effects?" Marcus asked. "We haven't seen any in the lab mice," Dr. Webb said. "Of course, we'll monitor for side effects very carefully during human trials." Marcus picked up the contract again. $100 million was a lot of money, even for him. But if the drug worked, it could make him billions. More importantly, it could save thousands of children's lives. He thought about his own childhood. He had been healthy and lucky. His parents never had to worry about him dying from a terrible disease. But there were parents all over the world who went to bed every night knowing their children might not live to see their next birthday. "This drug could really change the world," Marcus said. "Exactly," Dr. Webb said. "Think about all the families we could help. Think about all the children who could grow up to have normal, healthy lives." Marcus reached into his jacket pocket and pulled out his expensive pen. It was a gift from his business partner when their company went public. He had used it to sign every major deal since then. "Where do I sign?" Marcus asked. Dr. Webb pointed to the last page of the contract, right there at the bottom. Marcus opened the pen and held it over the signature line. $100 million, the biggest investment he had ever made, but also potentially the most profitable. Just as he was about to put pen to paper, he heard footsteps approaching their table. It was Sarah carrying a coffee pot. "Excuse me," she said quietly. "Would anyone like more coffee?" Marcus looked up at her. For just a moment their eyes met. There was something in her expression that he couldn't quite read. It looked like concern, or maybe worry, but that was impossible. She was just a waitress. What could she possibly be worried about regarding his business deal? "I'm fine, thank you," Marcus said, and turned back to the contract. He placed his pen on the signature line, and was about to sign his name when Sarah leaned closer to the table. What she said next would change everything. Sarah moved closer to the table, pretending to wipe up a small coffee spill with her cleaning cloth. Her hands were shaking slightly, but she tried to keep her voice steady and quiet. "That's the wrong formula," she whispered directly into Marcus's ear. Marcus froze. His pen stopped moving just inches above the signature line. He looked up at Sarah with confusion and surprise. "What did you say?" Sarah glanced nervously at Dr. Webb and Dr. Park, who were both staring at her with annoyed expressions. She knew she was taking a huge risk, but she couldn't stay quiet. Not when she knew what she knew. "I said that's the wrong formula," Sarah repeated, still speaking very quietly. "The molecular structure in your documents, it's not what they think it is." Dr. Webb's face turned red with anger. "Excuse me, miss, but this is a private business meeting. We don't need input from the waitstaff." "I'm sorry," Sarah said, backing away slightly. "I didn't mean to interrupt." But Marcus held up his hand to stop her from leaving. Something in her voice made him listen. Sarah didn't sound like someone making a random comment. She sounded like someone who actually understood what she was talking about. "Wait," Marcus said to Sarah. Then he turned to the doctors. "Give me a moment." Dr. Park looked frustrated. "Marcus, we don't have time for this. Our lawyers are expecting the signed contract by 5 o'clock today." "Just one moment," Marcus insisted. He looked back at Sarah. "What do you mean it's the wrong formula?" Sarah took a deep breath. She knew this could cost her job, but she also knew she couldn't let Marcus sign that contract. "I'm a chemistry student," she said. "I'm working on my PhD at the university. I work here part-time to pay for school." Dr. Webb laughed dismissively. "A student? Marcus, you're going to take business advice from a part-time student?" But Marcus wasn't laughing. He studied Sarah's face carefully. Her eyes were serious and intelligent. She didn't look like someone making things up. "What kind of chemistry?" Marcus asked. "Pharmaceutical chemistry," Sarah said. "My research focuses on drugs that affect the nervous system." Now Dr. Park looked worried. "Marcus, this is ridiculous. We need to finish this deal." Marcus ignored her. He was completely focused on Sarah now. "You looked at our documents." Sarah nodded. "I couldn't help but see them when I was serving coffee. The molecular diagram was right there on the table. And you think there's something wrong with it?" "I know there's something wrong with it," Sarah said with confidence. "That formula won't cure the disease they're talking about. In fact, it could make patients much worse." Dr. Webb stood up angrily. "This is outrageous. I'm not going to sit here and listen to accusations from a waitress." "Sit down, Richard," Marcus said firmly. His voice was calm, but there was steel in it. When Marcus Chen spoke in that tone, people listened. Dr. Webb sat down reluctantly, but he was still fuming. Marcus turned back to Sarah. "Can you explain what you see wrong with the formula?" Sarah looked around nervously. The diner was still mostly empty, but she was worried about causing a scene. "Maybe we should talk somewhere more private." "No," Marcus said. "Tell me now. What's wrong with their formula?" Sarah took another deep breath. She pointed to the molecular diagram in the open folder. "See this part here? The way these carbon atoms are connected to the nitrogen chain?" Marcus looked at the diagram. It just looked like circles and lines to him. "I see it, but I don't understand what it means." "This structure would create a compound that attacks healthy brain cells," Sarah explained. Instead of curing the disease, it would cause rapid brain damage. Patients would get worse very quickly. Dr. Park slammed her hand on the table. That's impossible. We tested this formula extensively. On lab mice, Sarah said. But mouse brains are different from human brains. This formula might not hurt mice, but it would definitely hurt people. Marcus felt a cold chill run down his spine. How sure are you about this? Completely sure, Sarah said. I've been studying this exact type of brain chemistry for 3 years. I know how these molecules interact with human nervous systems. Dr. Webb tried to laugh, but it sounded forced. Marcus, you can't seriously be considering the opinion of a college student over 2 experienced doctors. Actually, I can, Marcus said quietly. He was remembering something his mentor had taught him years ago. Always listen when someone with real expertise speaks up, no matter where that expertise comes from. This is insane, Dr. Park said. We have patents on this formula. We have research, data going back 3 years. Can I see your research notes? Sarah asked boldly. Absolutely not, Dr. Webb said. Those are proprietary documents. Marcus looked back and forth between the doctors and the waitress. The doctors seemed angry and defensive. Sarah seemed calm and confident, despite the awkward situation. Sarah, Marcus said, if you're right about this, why haven't other experts caught the error? Maybe they have, Sarah said. How many other investors have you shown this deal to? Marcus thought about it. You're the first. And how many other pharmaceutical companies have Dr. Webb and Dr. Park approached before coming to you? Marcus realized he didn't know the answer to that question. Richard? Lisa? How many other investors did you talk to before me? Dr. Webb and Dr. Park looked at each other nervously. Well, we wanted to come to you first because of your reputation, Dr. Webb said. That's not what I asked, Marcus said. How many others did you approach? There was a long silence. Finally, Dr. Park spoke up. We may have had preliminary discussions with a few other companies. And what happened with those discussions? Marcus pressed. Another silence. Sarah watched the doctors' faces and saw something that confirmed her suspicions. Fear. They turned us down, Dr. Webb admitted reluctantly. Why? Marcus asked. They said they needed more time to review the science, Dr. Park said. Sarah felt her heart racing. Mr. Chen, I think you should know something else. Marcus looked at her. What? The formula they're showing you. I've seen it before. Dr. Webb's face went completely pale. That's impossible. No, it's not, Sarah said. This is a modified version of a formula that was published in a scientific journal 2 years ago. The original research showed that it was toxic to human brain cells. Marcus felt like the floor was falling out from under him. Are you saying they stole this formula? I'm saying they took a known toxic formula and made small changes to it, Sarah said. But the changes they made don't fix the toxicity problem. They just hide it. Dr. Park stood up quickly. I don't have to listen to this nonsense. Yes, you do, Marcus said firmly. Sit down. I want to hear everything. Dr. Park sat back down, but she looked like she wanted to run away. Marcus looked at Sarah with new respect. How do you know so much about this specific research? Because I've been trying to find a real cure for this disease, Sarah said. My little brother died from it 3 years ago. I've read every paper that's ever been published about it. The table fell silent. Marcus felt a wave of emotion wash over him. This wasn't just about money anymore. This was about a young woman who had lost her brother and was trying to prevent other families from going through the same pain. I'm sorry for your loss, Marcus said quietly. Thank you, Sarah said. That's why I couldn't stay quiet. I know what this disease does to families. I couldn't let you invest in something that would give false hope to desperate parents. Marcus looked down at the contract in front of him. His pen was still in his hand, but now it felt heavy as a stone. Richard, Lisa. Marcus's voice was ice cold. I think you two have some explaining to do. The silence at the table stretched on for what felt like hours. Dr. Webb and Dr. Park exchanged nervous glances while Marcus stared at them with cold eyes. Sarah stood nearby, her heart pounding as she realized the magnitude of what she had just revealed. Finally, Dr. Webb cleared his throat. "Marcus, I understand your concern, but you have to consider the source of these accusations. This young woman is a part-time student working as a waitress. We are experienced professionals with decades of research behind us." "That's right," Dr. Park added quickly. "I have published over 50 papers in pharmaceutical journals. Richard has successfully brought 12 drugs to market. Our credentials speak for themselves." Marcus picked up his coffee cup and took a slow sip, never taking his eyes off the two doctors. "Your credentials are impressive," he said finally. "But credentials don't make you right about everything." Sarah stepped forward slightly. "Mr. Chen, if you give me 5 minutes, I can show you exactly what's wrong with their formula. I have my chemistry textbooks in my car." "That won't be necessary," Dr. Webb said hastily. "Marcus, we have spent millions of dollars developing this drug. We have 3 years of research data. Are you really going to throw all of that away because of what a waitress thinks she saw?" "She's not just a waitress," Marcus said firmly. "She's a PhD student specializing in the exact field we're discussing. And more importantly, she has personal experience with this disease." Dr. Park leaned forward desperately. "Marcus, think about this logically. If our formula was really dangerous, don't you think it would have been caught during our extensive testing?" "You tested it on mice," Sarah interjected. "Mice metabolize drugs differently than humans do. A formula that's safe for mice can be deadly for people." "She's right about that," Marcus said. He had learned enough about pharmaceutical development to know that animal testing didn't always predict human results. Dr. Webb was starting to sweat. "Marcus, we have investors waiting for this deal to close. There are legal obligations we have to meet." "What other investors?" Marcus asked sharply. The doctors looked at each other again. "Well, we have some preliminary agreements." "With who?" Another long pause. "We'd rather not say at this time," Dr. Park said. Marcus slammed his hand down on the table, making the coffee cups rattle. "I'm about to give you $100 million, and you won't tell me who else is involved in this deal?" Sarah watched the doctors squirm. She could see that they were hiding something important. "Mr. Chen," Sarah said quietly, "may I ask you something?" Marcus nodded. "Have you verified their test results independently? Did you have your own scientists review their data?" Marcus felt his stomach drop. In his excitement about the potential profits, he had skipped that step. He had trusted the doctor's reputation instead of doing his own due diligence. No, I haven't had independent verification yet," Marcus admitted. Dr. Webb jumped on this. "Of course you haven't. That's because you trust us. We've worked with your company before on smaller projects. We have a relationship built on mutual respect." "That was before," Marcus said coldly. "This conversation has changed things." Sarah pulled out her phone. "Mr. Chen, would you mind if I called my research advisor? He's one of the leading experts on this disease. He could look at the formula right now and give you a second opinion." "Absolutely not," Dr. Park said quickly. "Our formula is proprietary. We can't have it reviewed by unauthorized persons." "But Mr. Chen is about to invest $100 million, Sarah pointed out. "Doesn't he have the right to get expert opinions on what he's buying?" Marcus looked at the doctors with growing suspicion. "Why are you so resistant to having the formula reviewed?" "It's not resistance," Dr. Webb said. "It's standard business practice. We have confidentiality agreements to protect." "I'm willing to sign any confidentiality agreement you want," Marcus said. "I just want independent verification that your drug actually works." Dr. Park stood up again. "Marcus, I think we need to step back and reconsider this entire situation. Perhaps we should postpone the signing until you're in a better frame of mind." "I'm in a perfectly fine frame of mind," Marcus said. "I'm thinking more clearly now than I have all day." Sarah stepped closer to the table. "Mr. Chen, there's something else you should know." "What's that?" "I looked up Dr. Webb and Dr. Park's recent publications while you were talking. They haven't published any peer-reviewed research on this disease in over 2 years. Dr. Webb's face turned red again. That's because we've been focused on developing our proprietary formula instead of publishing academic papers. But good scientists always publish their preliminary findings, Sarah said. It's how the scientific community shares knowledge and catches errors. Marcus was beginning to feel sick to his stomach. Richard, Lisa, I need straight answers from you. Have you published anything about this research? We've been too busy with development to focus on publications, Dr. Park said defensively. That's not an answer, Marcus said. Yes or no? Have you published any research about this drug? After a long pause, Dr. Webb said, No, we haven't. Marcus leaned back in his seat. In the pharmaceutical world, companies that didn't publish research were usually companies that had something to hide. Sarah, Marcus said, you mentioned that you've seen this formula before. Where exactly did you see it? Sarah pulled out her phone and started scrolling through her apps. I have a database of pharmaceutical research on my phone. Let me find the original paper. You don't need to do that, Dr. Park said quickly. Yes, she does, Marcus said firmly. Sarah found what she was looking for. Here it is. The original research was published by Dr. James Morrison at Johns Hopkins University. The title of the paper is Neurotoxic Effects of Modified Benzene Compounds in Treating Genetic Neurological Disorders. Marcus took Sarah's phone and read the abstract of the paper. The more he read, the angrier he became. This paper says the formula is highly toxic to human brain cells, Marcus said. It says that patients who received this treatment showed rapid deterioration of brain function. Dr. Webb was now visibly panicking. That's a completely different formula. Our compound is different. Is it? Sarah asked. She pointed to the molecular diagram on the table. Because this looks exactly like Morrison's Formula B, with just 2 minor modifications. Marcus compared the diagram in the research paper to the one in the doctor's proposal. Even with his limited chemistry knowledge, he could see that they were almost identical. You're right, Marcus said quietly. They're essentially the same formula. Dr. Park made one last desperate attempt. Marcus, you're making a huge mistake. This drug could make you billions of dollars. No, Marcus said, closing the folder with the contract. This drug could kill children, and it could land me in prison for fraud. He stood up from the booth. This meeting is over. Dr. Webb grabbed Marcus's arm. Marcus, please, just give us a chance to explain. Marcus pulled his arm away. There's nothing to explain. You tried to sell me a drug that you knew was dangerous. You based your research on a toxic formula that had already been proven harmful. We can modify the formula, Dr. Park said desperately. We can fix the problems. Then come back to me when you have a formula that actually works, Marcus said, and when you have real test results from independent laboratories. Sarah watched as the 2 doctors gathered up their papers with shaking hands. They looked like people whose world was falling apart. This isn't over, Marcus, Dr. Webb said as they prepared to leave. We'll find other investors. I hope they're smarter than I almost was, Marcus replied. After the doctors left, Marcus sat back down in the booth. His hands were shaking slightly as he realized how close he had come to making a terrible mistake. Thank you, he said to Sarah. You just saved me from the biggest disaster of my career. I couldn't let you sign that contract, Sarah said. Too many lives were at stake. Marcus looked at this remarkable young woman who had risked her job to save him from disaster. Sarah, I think we need to talk more. Are you free after your shift ends? Sarah looked at the clock on the wall. It was 4:30 in the afternoon and her shift ended at 6. I get off work in an hour and a half, she said. But Mr. Chen, are you sure you want to spend more time talking about this? Those doctors might cause trouble for you. Marcus waved his hand dismissively. Let them try. I've been in business long enough to handle difficult people. He paused and looked at her seriously. But I'm worried about you. They might try to cause problems for you too. Sarah shrugged. I'm not afraid of them. Besides, what could they do? Get me fired from a part-time waitressing job? I've had worse things happen. Still, I don't want you to face any consequences for helping me, Marcus said. If they cause any problems for you, I want you to call me immediately. He pulled out a business card and wrote his personal cell phone number on the back. Sarah took the card and stared at it. She had never imagined that she would be exchanging phone numbers with a billionaire. Thank you, I will. Good. Now I have a question for you. You said you've been researching this disease because of your brother. Have you found any promising treatments in your research? Sarah's expression grew sad. Not yet, but I haven't given up. There are several research teams around the world working on it. Some of their approaches look more promising than others. Tell me about the most promising ones, Marcus said, leaning forward with genuine interest. Sarah sat down across from him in the booth. She was technically still on duty, but the diner was nearly empty, and her boss was in the back office doing paperwork. There's a team at Stanford University that's working with gene therapy, Sarah said. Instead of using drugs, they're trying to fix the genetic defect that causes the disease. How does that work? They use modified viruses to deliver healthy genes to the patient's cells. It's still experimental, but their early results are encouraging. Marcus nodded. He had invested in gene therapy companies before. What about other approaches? There's also a company in Switzerland that's developed a completely different drug formula. Unlike the fake one those doctors tried to sell you, this one has been through proper peer review. They've published several papers showing positive results. Why haven't I heard about this Swiss company? Marcus asked. Because they're small, and they don't have much funding, Sarah explained. They're run by a team of university researchers who are more interested in saving lives than making money. Marcus smiled. Those are often the best kind of scientists to work with. Sarah pulled out her phone and showed Marcus several research papers. Look at these results. The Swiss team has tested their drug on human volunteers. Small trials, but the results are very promising. Marcus studied the data on Sarah's phone. Unlike the fake results from Dr. Webb and Dr. Park, these looked genuine. The researchers had followed proper scientific protocols. They had published their methods and results for other scientists to review. This looks legitimate, Marcus said. It is. I've been following their work for 2 years. Dr. Elena Hoffman leads the team. She's one of the most respected researchers in this field. Have you ever contacted her directly? Marcus asked. Sarah nodded. I emailed her several times. She's very kind and always answers my questions. She even sent me some of her unpublished data to help with my own research. Marcus was impressed. Real scientists shared information and helped each other. They didn't hide behind claims of proprietary secrets. Sarah, would you be willing to call Dr. Hoffman right now? I'd like to talk to her. Sarah checked the time. It's about 11 at night in Switzerland. She's probably sleeping. Then we'll call her tomorrow. But first, I want to learn more about your research. You said you've been working on this for 3 years? That's right. Ever since my brother died, I've been determined to find a cure. I changed my major from general chemistry to pharmaceutical chemistry. I spend every free moment reading research papers and working in the lab. Marcus was quiet for a moment. He was thinking about his own motivation for making money. Most of the time, it was just about the challenge and the excitement. But Sarah was driven by something much more powerful, the desire to prevent other families from suffering the way hers had. What was your brother like? Marcus asked gently. Sarah's eyes lit up. Tommy was amazing. He was only 8 when he died, but he was the smartest kid I ever knew. He loved science and wanted to be an astronaut. She pulled out her phone and showed Marcus a picture. Marcus saw a smiling boy with dark hair and Sarah's intelligent eyes. He was wearing a NASA t-shirt and holding a toy rocket. He looks like he was a wonderful kid, Marcus said. He was. Even when he got sick, he never complained. He always said he was going to get better and go to space someday. Sarah wiped away a tear. The hardest part was watching him lose his abilities one by one. First he couldn't run, then he couldn't walk. Finally, he couldn't even speak. Marcus felt a lump in his throat. He couldn't imagine watching a loved one suffer like that. I'm sorry you had to go through that, Marcus said. It changed my whole life, Sarah said. Before Tommy got sick, I was just a regular college student. I wanted to get a job at a big company and make good money. But after he died, money didn't seem important anymore. I just wanted to help other families. Marcus realized that Sarah was everything that Dr. Webb and Dr. Park were not. She was driven by genuine care for others, not by greed. She was rigorous in her research, not willing to cut corners. And she was brave enough to speak up when she saw something wrong. "Sarah, I have an idea," Marcus said. "But first, I need to understand more about your current research. What exactly are you working on in your PhD program?" "I'm trying to develop a new method for testing potential treatments," Sarah said. "Most researchers test their drugs on lab animals first, then move to human trials. But animal testing doesn't always predict what will happen in humans, like the formula those doctors tried to sell me." "Exactly. My research focuses on using computer models to predict how drugs will affect human brain cells. It's not perfect, but it's much better than relying only on animal testing." Marcus was fascinated. "How does it work?" Sarah pulled out a napkin and started drawing diagrams. "I create detailed computer models of human brain cells. Then I test virtual drugs on the virtual cells to see what happens. If the virtual drug looks promising, then we test it on real cells in the laboratory. And if it works on real cells, then we can move to animal testing with much more confidence, and eventually to human trials." Marcus studied Sarah's diagrams. Even though she was drawing on a napkin with a ballpoint pen, he could see that she understood her subject deeply. "How long does your computer testing take compared to traditional methods?" Marcus asked. "Months instead of years," Sarah said, "and it costs thousands of dollars instead of millions." Marcus felt his excitement growing. This wasn't just about finding a cure for one disease. Sarah's method could revolutionize the entire pharmaceutical industry. "Sarah, have you published any papers about this method?" "Not yet. My advisor wants me to finish my PhD first. But I've presented my preliminary results at several scientific conferences." "What kind of response have you gotten?" "Mixed. Some researchers are very excited about the possibilities. Others are skeptical because it's such a new approach." Marcus nodded. That was typical in any industry when someone proposed a revolutionary new method. "Have any companies expressed interest in your work?" Marcus asked. Sarah laughed. "A few, but they all want to own my research completely. They want me to sign contracts that would give them all the rights to anything I discover." "And you don't want to do that?" "No. If I find something that could help sick children, I want to make sure it gets to them as quickly and cheaply as possible. I don't want some company to buy my research and then charge desperate families huge amounts of money." Marcus smiled. He had found someone who shared his own values, even though she expressed them differently. "Sarah, what would you say if I told you I wanted to fund your research?" Sarah stared at him in shock. "What do you mean?" "I mean, I want to invest in your computer modeling method, not to own it, but to help you develop it faster." "But why would you do that? You don't even know if my method will work." Marcus leaned back in his booth. "Because in the last hour, you've shown me that you understand pharmaceutical science better than 2 doctors with fancy degrees. You've saved me from making a $100 million mistake, and most importantly, you're driven by the right motivations." Sarah was speechless for several seconds. Finally, she said, "Mr. Chen, I don't know what to say." "Say yes," Marcus replied. "Let me help you find a real cure for the disease that killed your brother." Sarah's shift ended at 6 o'clock, but she barely noticed the time passing. She and Marcus had been talking for 2 hours about pharmaceutical research, computer modeling, and the future of medicine. When her replacement arrived, Sarah hung up her apron and sat back down with Marcus. "Before we talk about funding my research," Sarah said, "I think you should know more about those doctors who tried to sell you the fake drug." Marcus looked up from his coffee. "What do you mean?" Sarah pulled out her laptop from her backpack. "While we were talking, I did some research on Dr. Webb and Dr. Park. What I found is very disturbing." She opened her computer and showed Marcus several websites. "Look at this. Dr. Webb's last company was shut down by the FDA 3 years ago for falsifying test results." Marcus read the article on the screen. It says here that they were fined $50 million and banned from developing new drugs for 2 years. That ban ended 6 months ago, Sarah said, right around the time they started approaching investors with this new formula. Marcus felt his anger rising again. They didn't mention any of this to me. It gets worse, Sarah continued, clicking to another webpage. Dr. Park was fired from her last job at a major pharmaceutical company. The reason was research misconduct and data manipulation. Marcus stared at the screen in disbelief. How did I not know about this? Because they were very careful about how they presented themselves, Sarah said. They emphasized their old successes and didn't mention their recent problems. Sarah showed him more information. I also found records of their recent investor meetings. They've approached at least 12 different companies in the past 6 months. Every single one turned them down. Why didn't my team catch this during their background check? Marcus wondered aloud. Did you do a background check? Sarah asked. Marcus realized with embarrassment that he hadn't. He had been so excited about the potential profits that he had skipped his usual careful investigation process. I was sloppy, Marcus admitted. I let my enthusiasm cloud my judgment. Sarah clicked to another web page. There's more. I found the original research that their formula was based on. Dr. James Morrison, the scientist who first developed this compound, issued a public warning about it. She showed Marcus an article from a medical journal. The headline read, "Researcher warns against use of modified neurotoxic compounds." Marcus read the article carefully. Dr. Morrison explained that his formula had been designed as a research tool to study how brain cells died. It was never intended to be used as a treatment for any disease. He says here that anyone who tries to use this formula to treat patients would be committing scientific fraud, Marcus said. Exactly. And look at this part. Sarah pointed to a paragraph near the end of the article. Dr. Morrison says he's been contacted by several companies asking to license his formula for commercial use. He refused all of them because he knew the formula was dangerous. Marcus was beginning to understand the full scope of what Dr. Webb and Dr. Park had tried to do. They had taken a formula that was known to be toxic, made minor changes to disguise it, and then tried to sell it as a breakthrough cure. This isn't just bad science, Marcus said. This is criminal fraud. Sarah nodded grimly. And if you had signed that contract and funded human trials, children would have died. Marcus felt sick to his stomach. He had built his fortune by making smart investments in companies that helped people. The idea that he had almost funded something that would hurt children was horrifying. I need to do something about this, Marcus said. I can't let them try this scam on other investors. What can you do? Sarah asked. Marcus thought for a moment. I have contacts at the FDA and at several major pharmaceutical companies. I can make sure they know about Dr. Webb and Dr. Park's history. That's a good start, Sarah said. But there might be a bigger problem. What do you mean? Sarah hesitated, then said, I think they may have already found another investor. Marcus's blood ran cold. What makes you think that? When they were packing up their papers to leave, I heard Dr. Park say something to Dr. Webb about the backup plan. She mentioned a meeting tomorrow morning. Did you hear anything else? Just a name, something like Harrison or Garrison. Marcus knew exactly who she was talking about. Robert Harrison. He runs Harrison Medical Investments. They specialize in high-risk pharmaceutical deals. Do you know him personally? We've done business before. Robert is smart, but he's also very aggressive. If Dr. Webb and Dr. Park present their deal the right way, he might sign without doing proper research. Sarah looked worried. What happens if he invests in their fake drug and funds human trials? Marcus didn't want to think about it. Children could die. Families would be destroyed. And Robert would lose hundreds of millions of dollars. We have to stop them, Sarah said. Marcus nodded. But we need proof. Right now, we only have your analysis of their formula. Robert won't take our word for it. Sarah thought for a moment. What if I could get Dr. Morrison to review their formula directly? He's the original researcher. His opinion would carry a lot of weight. Do you think he would do it? I can ask. Scientists usually help each other when patient safety is involved. Marcus made a decision. Sarah, I'm going to ask you to do something. That might be risky. What? I want you to contact Dr. Morrison tonight. Explain the situation and ask if he would be willing to provide a written analysis of Dr. Webb and Dr. Park's formula. Sarah nodded. I can do that. But what about you? I'm going to call Robert Harrison first thing tomorrow morning. I'll try to convince him to delay any meetings until we can provide him with expert analysis. Sarah closed her laptop and looked at Marcus seriously. Mr. Chen, why are you willing to get involved in this? You could just walk away and forget about the whole thing. Marcus was quiet for a long time. Finally, he said, because 20 years ago, I was a broke college student sitting in this same booth, dreaming about making enough money to change the world. I've made more money than I ever imagined, but I haven't done much to change the world. He paused and looked around the old diner. Today, you showed me what it really means to use knowledge to help people. You risked your job to save me from a mistake. More importantly, you potentially saved the lives of children you'll never meet. Sarah felt tears welling up in her eyes. I just did what anyone would do. No, Marcus said firmly. Most people would have minded their own business. You spoke up because it was the right thing to do. Marcus pulled out his checkbook. Sarah, I want to fund your research starting tonight. Sarah stared at him. Mr. Chen, you don't have to do that. Yes, I do. Your computer modeling method could prevent tragedies like this from happening in the future. We need to get it developed and available to other researchers as soon as possible. He wrote out a check and handed it to her. Sarah looked at the amount and gasped. This is $1 million. It's a start, Marcus said. If your method works as well as you think it will, there will be much more. Sarah held the check with trembling hands. I can't accept this. It's too much. Sarah, that check represents less money than I would have lost in one day if I had invested with Dr. Webb and Dr. Park. You've already earned it 10 times over. Sarah looked at the check again, then at Marcus. If I take this money, I want to do something with it that would make Tommy proud. What's that? I want to use part of it to establish a foundation that provides free research to families dealing with rare diseases. No one should have to go through what my family went through. Marcus smiled. This was exactly the kind of thinking that convinced him Sarah was the right person to invest in. That sounds perfect, he said. But first, we need to stop Dr. Webb and Dr. Park from hurting anyone else. Sarah nodded and put the check carefully in her purse. I'll call Dr. Morrison tonight. What time are you going to call Mr. Harrison? Marcus checked his watch. It was almost 8 o'clock in the evening. I'll call him at 7 tomorrow morning. That should give you time to talk to Dr. Morrison tonight. They exchanged phone numbers and email addresses. As they prepared to leave the diner, Sarah turned to Marcus. Mr. Chen, there's one more thing you should know. What's that? I don't think Dr. Webb and Dr. Park are working alone. This kind of fraud usually involves more people. Marcus frowned. What makes you think that? The legal documents they showed you were very sophisticated. Someone with a lot of resources helped them prepare this scam. Marcus realized she was right. The contracts and presentations had been professionally prepared. That took money and expertise. We'll figure out who else is involved, Marcus said. But first, let's focus on stopping tomorrow's meeting. As they walked out of Romano's diner, together, neither Marcus nor Sarah realized that they were about to uncover a conspiracy much bigger than they had imagined. Sarah called Dr. Morrison that night at 11 o'clock. She was nervous about calling so late, but she knew the situation was urgent. Dr. Morrison answered on the second ring. Dr. Morrison, this is Sarah Martinez from State University. I'm sorry to call so late, but I have an emergency situation involving patient safety. What's going on? Dr. Morrison asked. His voice was alert despite the late hour. Sarah explained everything that had happened at the diner. She described Dr. Webb and Dr. Park's formula and how it was based on his original toxic research. Are you absolutely certain about the molecular structure? Dr. Morrison asked. Yes, sir. I took a photo of their diagram with my phone. I can email it to you right now. Please do. I'll review it immediately. Sarah sent the photo and waited while Dr. Morrison examined it. After a few minutes, he came back on the line. Sarah, this is exactly what I was afraid would happen. This formula is nearly identical to my compound B7. It's extremely dangerous to human brain tissue. Can you provide a written analysis? Sarah asked. We need to stop them from presenting this to another investor tomorrow morning. Absolutely. I'll prepare a detailed report tonight and send it to you by 6 a.m. This kind of fraud cannot be allowed to continue. Meanwhile, Marcus was at home making phone calls of his own. He tried calling Robert Harrison, but got his voicemail. He left an urgent message asking Robert to call him back immediately. At 6 in the morning, Marcus's phone rang. It was Robert Harrison. Marcus, what's this urgent message about? You sounded pretty worked up. Robert, are you meeting with Dr. Richard Webb and Dr. Lisa Park today? There was a pause. How did you know about that? That meeting is confidential. Because they tried to sell me the same deal yesterday. Robert, you cannot sign anything with those people. They're trying to defraud investors. What are you talking about? They have impressive credentials and promising research data. Marcus spent the next 20 minutes explaining everything that had happened at the diner. He told Robert about Sarah's analysis, about Dr. Webb and Dr. Park's history of fraud, and about the toxic nature of their formula. Marcus, this sounds crazy. You're telling me that a waitress convinced you not to make a $100 million investment? She's not just a waitress, Robert. She's a PhD student who specializes in exactly this type of pharmaceutical research. And she was right about everything. Robert was quiet for a moment. Even if what you're saying is true, I have lawyers and scientists who review all my deals. They would catch any problems. Would they? Did they catch the fact that Dr. Webb's last company was shut down by the FDA? Did they catch that Dr. Park was fired for research misconduct? Another pause. I'll have my team look into that. Robert, please. Just delay the meeting for one day. I have expert analysis coming from the original researcher who developed their formula. Give me 24 hours to get you the proof. Fine. But Marcus, if you're wrong about this, you owe me big time. I had to reschedule 3 other meetings to fit these doctors into my schedule. If I'm wrong, I'll personally compensate you for the lost time. But Robert, if I'm right, I just saved you from the biggest disaster of your career. At 7 a.m., Sarah received Dr. Morrison's report by email. It was devastating. The respected scientist had torn apart Dr. Webb and Dr. Park's formula point by point, explaining exactly why it would be toxic to human patients. Sarah immediately forwarded the report to Marcus, who sent it to Robert Harrison. By 8 a.m., Robert had called Marcus back. Holy shit, Marcus. This Morrison guy says their formula could cause brain damage within hours. Now do you believe me? I'm canceling the meeting. But Marcus, we have a problem. I wasn't the only investor they were talking to. Marcus felt his heart sink. Who else? They mentioned having meetings lined up with 3 other investment groups. If we don't stop them, they'll just keep trying until someone signs. Do you know who the other investors are? I have some ideas. Let me make some calls. By 10 a.m., Robert had identified the other potential investors. One was a group in Texas that specialized in medical startups. Another was a venture capital firm in California. The third was an international investment company based in London. Marcus and Sarah met at Romano's diner again that morning to plan their next move. Sarah had taken the day off from classes and Marcus had cleared his entire schedule. We need to contact all 3 investor groups, Marcus said. But we also need to be careful. Dr. Webb and Dr. Park might try to claim that we're interfering with their business for competitive reasons. Sarah had been thinking about this problem all night. What if we approach this differently? Instead of just trying to stop Dr. Webb and Dr. Park, what if we expose their entire operation? What do you mean? You said you think they're not working alone. If we can figure out who's backing them, we might be able to shut down more than just this one scam. Marcus nodded. That's a good point. But how do we investigate them without tipping them off? Sarah smiled. I have an idea. What if I applied for a job with their company? Marcus stared at her. That's incredibly dangerous. If they figure out who you are, they've never seen me before yesterday. and they didn't pay much attention to me because they thought I was just a waitress. But what if they recognize your name from university records or research papers? I'll use a fake name and create a fake resume. I have a friend in the chemistry department who could help me. Marcus was worried about putting Sarah in danger, but he had to admit her idea was clever. What would you hope to learn? Who's funding them? Where they're getting their legal support? Whether they have other fake formulas they're trying to sell. Sarah, I can't ask you to take that kind of risk. You're not asking. I'm volunteering. Mr. Chen, these people tried to trick you into funding something that could kill children. We can't let them succeed with someone else. Marcus thought about it for several minutes. Finally, he said, if you're going to do this, we need to be very careful. You'll need a completely believable fake identity. My friend Jenny can help with that. She's a computer science major who specializes in creating realistic online profiles for research projects. And you'll need a way to communicate with me without Dr. Webb and Dr. Park knowing about it. Sarah pulled out a second cell phone. I bought this morning with cash. It's completely untraceable. Marcus was impressed by how thoroughly Sarah had thought through her plan. What if they offer you a job and want you to sign legal documents? I'll stall them. Say I need time to review anything before signing. They spent the next 2 hours working out the details of Sarah's undercover operation. Marcus would provide her with a fake resume showing advanced chemistry credentials. Sarah would approach Dr. Webb and Dr. Park, claiming to be a recent graduate looking for work in pharmaceutical development. At noon, Sarah made the call. Dr. Webb? This is Jennifer Stevens. I got your contact information from a colleague who said you might be hiring research chemists. Marcus listened as Sarah completely transformed her voice and personality. She sounded like an eager young graduate student desperate for her first real job. I just finished my PhD in pharmaceutical chemistry at Boston University, Sarah continued. I specialize in neuropharmacology and drug development. Marcus could hear Dr. Webb's voice through the phone, though he couldn't make out the words. Sarah was nodding and taking notes. Yes, I'm very interested in working on treatments for rare diseases, Sarah said. That's exactly the kind of work I want to do with my career. After a few more minutes, Sarah hung up the phone. They want to meet me tomorrow morning, she said. Dr. Webb said they're looking for someone with my exact qualifications. Did he say anything about their current projects? He mentioned they're in the final stages of securing funding for a breakthrough treatment. He said if I join their team, I could be part of something that changes medical history. Marcus felt a chill run down his spine. Dr. Webb and Dr. Park were still actively pursuing investors, despite knowing their formula was dangerous. Sarah, I'm going to ask you one more time. Are you sure you want to do this? Sarah thought about her little brother Tommy and all the other children who might be hurt by Dr. Webb and Dr. Park's fraud. I'm sure, she said. These people need to be stopped. Sarah arrived at Dr. Webb's office the next morning at 9 o'clock, carrying a briefcase and wearing a professional suit she had borrowed from her roommate. Her fake resume listed her as Jennifer Stevens, a recent PhD graduate from Boston University, with expertise in neuropharmacology. The office was located in an expensive business district downtown. Sarah was surprised by how legitimate everything looked. Dr. Webb and Dr. Park had clearly invested significant money in creating a professional appearance. Jennifer, thank you for coming, Dr. Webb said, shaking her hand. Lisa and I are very impressed with your credentials. Thank you for meeting with me, Sarah replied, using the slightly different voice she had practiced. I'm very excited about the possibility of working on breakthrough treatments. Dr. Park led Sarah into a conference room where several other people were waiting. Sarah's heart jumped when she realized this was much bigger than she had expected. Jennifer, let me introduce you to our team, Dr. Webb said. This is Dr. Michael Thompson, our head of clinical trials. Dr. Susan Liu, our regulatory affairs specialist, and this is James Morrison. Sarah almost gasped out loud. James Morrison was the same scientist who had written the report proving their formula was dangerous. What was he doing here? It's a pleasure to meet you, Jennifer, Dr. Morrison said, shaking her hand. Sarah tried to stay calm, but her mind was racing. Had Dr. Morrison been lying when he helped her and Marcus? Was he actually part of the scam? Dr. Morrison, Sarah said carefully, I'm familiar with some of your published research on neurotoxic compounds. Dr. Morrison's eyes sharpened slightly. Are you indeed? Which paper specifically? Sarah realized this was a test. Your 2023 paper on modified benzene compounds was particularly interesting, especially your conclusions about the dangers of using those compounds in human patients. Dr. Morrison smiled, but it wasn't a friendly smile. Yes, that paper has gotten quite a bit of attention recently, Dr. Webb interrupted. Jennifer, let me explain what we're working on here. We've developed a revolutionary treatment for a rare genetic disease that affects children. Sarah nodded enthusiastically. That sounds amazing. What kind of treatment? Dr. Park opened a laptop and showed Sarah the same molecular diagrams that Marcus had almost signed contracts for. This is our proprietary formula. We've had tremendous success in animal trials. Sarah studied the diagrams, pretending she was seeing them for the first time. This is fascinating work. Have you published any of your results yet? Not yet, Dr. Webb said. We want to secure proper funding before we release our findings to the scientific community. That makes sense, Sarah said. What stage are you at with funding? We're very close to securing a major investment, Dr. Thompson said. We just need to finalize some research staff first. Sarah felt like she was walking through a minefield. Every question had to be carefully calculated to avoid suspicion. What would my role be if I joined your team, she asked. We need someone to oversee the transition from animal testing to human trials, Dr. Liu explained. Someone with your background would be perfect for managing the clinical research. Sarah's blood ran cold. They wanted her to help them test their dangerous formula on human patients. That sounds like exactly the kind of work I want to do, Sarah lied. When would human trials begin? Assuming we get funding approval today, we could start recruiting patients within 2 weeks, Dr. Webb said. Today. Sarah realized that while she had been infiltrating their operation, they had been moving forward with finding new investors. Dr. Webb, Sarah said, can I ask who your potential investor is? It would be helpful to know what kind of company culture I'd be working with. Dr. Morrison answered instead. Harrison Medical Investments has expressed strong interest in our work. Sarah's heart sank. Despite Marcus's warnings, Robert Harrison was apparently still considering the deal. That's wonderful, Sarah said. Mr. Harrison has an excellent reputation in the pharmaceutical industry. Indeed he does, Dr. Webb said with a satisfied smile. Which is why we're confident this deal will close today. Sarah excused herself to go to the bathroom, where she immediately sent a text message to Marcus using her secret phone. They're meeting with Harrison today. They want to start human trials in 2 weeks. Morrison is working with them. Marcus's reply came back quickly. Morrison is undercover FBI agent. Keep playing your role. Help is coming. Sarah stared at her phone in shock. Dr. Morrison was working for the FBI? That meant this investigation was much bigger than she and Marcus had realized. She returned to the conference room where Dr. Webb was explaining more details about their planned human trials. We've already identified potential patients, Dr. Park was saying. Families with children who have exhausted all other treatment options. They're desperate enough to try anything. The callous way she talked about desperate families made Sarah feel sick. These people were planning to experiment on dying children with a formula they knew was toxic. How many patients are you planning to recruit? Sarah asked. 50 for the initial trial, Dr. Thompson said. If the results are positive, we'll expand to 500 patients in the second phase. Sarah did the math in her head. They were planning to give a dangerous, potentially deadly drug to hundreds of sick children. At that moment, Dr. Morrison's phone buzzed. He looked at the message and nodded slightly. Excuse me, Dr. Morrison said, but I need to step outside for a moment. As soon as he left the room, Sarah heard sounds of commotion in the hallway. Loud voices, footsteps, doors opening and closing. Dr. Webb looked concerned. I wonder what's going on out there. The conference room door opened and Dr. Morrison walked back in. Behind him were 4 people wearing FBI jackets. Dr. Webb, Dr. Park, Dr. Morrison said formally. You're both under arrest for conspiracy to commit fraud and endangering public safety. Dr. Webb jumped to his feet. What is this, Morrison? What's going on? I'm Special Agent Morrison with the Federal Bureau of Investigation, he said, showing his badge. We've been investigating your operation for the past 6 months. Dr. Park tried to run, but one of the FBI agents blocked her path. You have the right to remain silent, the agent said, putting handcuffs on her wrists. Dr. Thompson and Dr. Liu sat in stunned silence as the FBI agents arrested Dr. Webb as well. This is outrageous, Dr. Webb shouted. We haven't done anything illegal. You attempted to defraud multiple investors with a fraudulent medical treatment, Agent Morrison said. You also planned to conduct unauthorized human trials with a compound known to be toxic. Sarah sat quietly, trying to process everything that was happening. The FBI had been investigating this scam for months. Her intervention with Marcus had apparently provided them with the final evidence they needed to make arrests. After Dr. Webb and Dr. Park were taken away, Agent Morrison approached Sarah. Ms. Martinez, he said quietly, thank you for your assistance in this investigation. You know who I really am? Sarah asked. We've been monitoring their communications since yesterday. When Dr. Webb mentioned hiring a new researcher, we realized it might be you. How long have you been investigating them? 6 months. They've attempted this same scam with at least 20 different investors across the country. You and Mr. Chen were the first ones to recognize it as fraud. Sarah felt overwhelmed. What happens now? Dr. Webb and Dr. Park will face federal charges for fraud and conspiracy. We're also investigating their financial backers. This operation involved several other people who provided funding and legal support. Agent Morrison handed Sarah his business card. We may need you to testify at their trial. Your analysis of their formula was crucial evidence in this case. After the FBI left, Sarah called Marcus from the empty conference room. Marcus, it's over. The FBI arrested them. No, Agent Morrison called me 20 minutes ago. Sarah, are you okay? I'm fine, just shaken up. I can't believe how close they came to actually testing that formula on children. But they didn't, thanks to you. Your intervention stopped a potential tragedy. Sarah looked around the conference room where Dr. Webb and Dr. Park had been planning to poison children in the name of medical research. Marcus, I have a request. Anything. I want to use the money you gave me to create a foundation that helps families verify the safety of experimental treatments. No parent should have to worry about whether doctors are telling